Here are the questions for Harry Paakkonen. Number one, what advice would you give to someone who doesn't know exactly what they want to focus on as a career?
First of all, hi there, students. They're great questions. So what if you don't know what you'd like to do? If you don't have a clear idea, it's a very interesting question, and I have a feeling that quite a few people probably um, uh, be also a little nervous at the beginning to make a commitment because they're afraid that if they turn down a job because it doesn't take them towards their goal, then they may miss out on something. Um, um, but there's a couple of different ways to approach it. One is that you just get a job somewhere, preferably a company where they have different kinds of, like, they don't specialize in just one thing, but where they do modeling, animation, lighting, all the different aspects of the production, and just observe and try different things and see if something clicks. It may be that you may have to work on something for a little while before something feels right. But then there's another way, and this might be actually even better, which is start creating some projects on your own time at home and create a project from beginning to the end. Model something, texture map them, rig them, animate them, render them. Even if it's simple, it doesn't have to be something that you show anybody. But first of all, by doing all these different tasks and maybe do a couple of projects, you may discover that something is what you like better than another part of it. And the second reason why you may want to do this anyways is that a modeler who knows how to rig, even a little bit, is a better modeler. And a rigger who knows to model is a better rigger. So this just knowing the different aspects will help you with the other aspects. Somebody who lights may benefit from modeling. A modeler may benefit from knowing how lighting works, because there are certain types of polygons that won't render well. So if you know how to light, you know that you don't have long, skinny triangles here and there because they just won't render well, and so forth. So that might be one way to approach it.
Okay, number two, would more recent projects be better to have in our portfolios regardless of quality?
No. Absolutely, I would put the best quality in there. And in particular, if the most recent one, sometimes you just take a gig because it pays well, but it may be something that you just are not very proud of. So I would show my best quality work. And you may have some more recent ones, but to me, it's clear to everybody that just because you did this a year ago, chances are that your skill level has not decreased in the last year.
So it's quality over quantity, you'd say.
Yeah.
Okay, number three, would it be okay to use a model without any textures on it for an animation portfolio?
Yes, I think so. And actually, for some things, it might be even better because then you're focusing on the what you want to highlight. It depends a little bit. What is it that you're showing? Like if you want to just show like a motion test for animation, or maybe just the geometry for a modeler, you may want to render that sample with Final Gather. So you get black and white with shading, contact shadows and such. And that looks actually really beautiful. So to me, that's completely acceptable. But of course, if you're applying for a job as a texture mapper, then not. So it depends a little bit on the situation.
Besides a demo reel, do employers care about anything else when first hiring?
Absolutely, they do. And if you meet somebody in person, whether it's in person or through Zoom or however, they're going to just size you up. They're going to see, like, is this a person who looks like they might take direction well, or they might take criticism well? Are they difficult to work with? They may check your punctuality, like if you agree to show up at a certain point, you better be there at that time. I mean, all the all of the attributes that if you were hiring somebody to work for you, I mean, you'd look for certain things, reliability. So there are these little things that people look for to evaluate if you have those qualities. So the demo reel is if it's obvious from your reel that you don't know what you're doing, I don't think they even bother talking to you. The reel will open the door, and then after that, they'll take into account, are you? Does it look like you're a team player? Are you going to be somebody that anybody wants to be around? Yeah, so all these other things come after that. The reel will get you the interview.
Okay. Since you said you've never missed a deadline, are there any techniques you do to get work done on time?
Yeah, there's several. One of the things is that, first of all, I never promise what I know that I can't deliver. So I usually, when I get a storyboard or treatment, I figure the approach that I'm going to use to go ahead with this project. I play that thing step by step in my head. So I animate, create my projects in my head before I ever go in front of the computer. I already know what I'm about to do. So in front of the computer, it's usually just a data dump, or sometimes I may experiment, but I already knew sort of what I'm doing. And so when I get a task or a project, I go through all the steps in my head and I evaluate approximately, okay, so I think it's going to take me about an hour to do this thing. It's going to take me probably 15 minutes to do that, or maybe 2 hours to do this. And I add it all up and I figure that that's what it's going to take. Then I add a little bit of wiggle room. I add a little bit of contingency for something that didn't work out perfectly the way I first thought. And also I leave some time for changes. So there's a really good chance that they'll have feedback and they want to change something different. And so one of the key things is not to overpromise, be realistic, and just be honest, and that goes a long way.
Okay. What are some ways to bond with your coworkers during the first few times on the job?
Just, think about what kind of person do you want to be around with yourself? You want to be with somebody who is, doesn't argue with all the time, who's not trying to convert you to something, who respects you, who helps you, who's just fun to be with, who laughs, take a lunch break, go eat with them. And just be helpful generally. Don't bring politics or religion or things like that into work, and just take people for what they are, accept people for what they are, and treat them like you would like to be treated.
Excellent. Okay. When you were learning how to use the program for the Amiga 2000, what was the most challenging thing that you had to learn and experience with that program?
Wow. To learn, the first program that I learned was called Turbo Silver. It was the first CG program that I'm aware of that was available for a consumer. It came with just this very, very short, it wasn't a manual. It was basically more like a dictionary. It had, there's this button and its function is this, but it didn't really explain in any more detail. There's nowhere. Was there anything about how do you what's the sequence? You have a model, then you animate, you render. There was nothing. All it was basically just the most simple dictionary without any direction about how to put a sentence together, like whether there's a verb or a noun or adjective, nothing like that. And to figure it out by trial and error was the most complicated thing that I have ever learned in my entire life. I speak 7 languages. I'm speaking a foreign language right now. This is easier than figuring that first thing out. That was the hardest thing, and the fact that now there are tutorials. There were no schools. There was nothing. I mean, there was absolutely nothing. So it was incredibly complicated, but it's just me sitting here and telling you this is proof that persevere. Just don't give up. You just keep at it, and you'll figure it out.
You sound a little like me when I used to whine about trying to learn Unix. That was not fun. Okay, for the effects.
Same thing here. Same thing here.
Although you had it rougher than I did, at least I had some roadmaps, but you were just given the glossary of the terms.
There was nothing.
You sound like a true pioneer back when everything you did was being done for the very first time. It's hard to believe.
It kind of felt a little bit like that, but that was sort of one of the great excitement. But there's still that factor in today still,
Oh, yeah. For the effects and animations that you showed on your demo reel, what program do you commonly use and what do you recommend to beginners?
I use, for CG, I use Maya. For compositing, Nuke. And sometimes After Effects, they do different kinds of things. So, though the one would be better for some project than another for another. And then there's a myriad of other programs. I mean, Photoshop for texture mapping, UV layout for creating UVs for a model. I still, have a copy of Elastic Reality for more things. So there's a whole bunch of software. And my recommendation is that pick the software that is most commonly used by companies, learn that. So in I would say Maya is probably number one. 3D Max is what some other companies use. If you learn, something like Cinema 4D, for example, and then you get a job at a, really doing like real CG, then you have to go kind of like not to square one, but you have to relearn another program. So learn this, to figure out what is the most widely used software in the industry. Learn that.
Yeah, good advice. What artist did you take inspiration from before you chose to focus more on animation?
Oh, honestly, I didn't have really an inspiration for that. If there was, what prompted me to get into this field was actually, it was a book and not an artist. It was John Steinbeck's Pearl. I read that and I saw that book in front of my eyes as a movie. I later on, 30 years later, found out that he had actually written a film treatment originally, so maybe that's why I was so visual. And that was what I mean, there's the longest story I think I already told, how I originally thought I'm a painter, and then I stopped painting. And so that book gave me the idea that maybe I'll get into film, and so that's how I got into film industry. And then down the line later, CG happened, and I saw my first thing, and that's what got bigger. But there wasn't really any. I mean, I like art, but there wasn't really anything.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, you've done it. Yeah, I think you broke the world record too. That was great. I didn't want to keep you on the phone long, and we've done about 15 minutes worth, which is exactly the amount of time slotted for it. So I don't know what to say, Harry, other than thank you so much. And I wish you the very best of luck. It looks to me like you've got it going on in every category, but I sure do appreciate the time. And I'm sure my students do too, that you've taken to not only to do your initial lecture, but this too.
Absolutely. I just for the students, I wish you every fortune and luck. Just persevere, keep at it. And, there's a really good chance that you will have a life of adventure, prosperity, happy work, and it's you could do a whole lot worse than taking this as your career rather than pushing paper in some office building.
So they too can enjoy the life of luxury and splendor, as has Harry Paakkonen. So Harry, thanks a lot. We sure appreciate it. I'll be in touch. Take care of yourself.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.